All right. Thank you guys for hopping on with us tonight. I am so glad that y'all have hopped on. We have a special guest tonight. Holly Arnold is one of my good friends. She's a sideline of ours. She's under Glenn Rollins, who is an EVP here at Bravenly. He joined, I think, maybe the month or so after I did back in 2022. And I am have gotten to know Holly. She actually lives just a few towns up in Mineral Bluff. And so she was at our sip and sample. And I don't know about anybody else that was there, but I really, really got I don't know, it really stirred me, her story and just her motivation. So I wanted her to be a special guest on our Zoom tonight and just kind of share a little bit with you of her journey in network marketing, her journey in Bravenly, because her journey did not start at Bravenly, and she's going to share a little bit with you about that, but also like what it looks like to just keep going through the hard times, through the, maybe what we call the slow times, and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Holly and yeah, super excited for you to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, if I if I start randomly like tearing up, please know that I'm using new skincare and I think I put too much on. That's why I look like a
Oh,
glazed
no,
donut.
you're fine.
I'm kind of like sliding down my face at this point. If my eye starts twitching, just know the eye cream was a little thick. Well, thank you so much for just asking me to do this. I really appreciate that. Like Amelia said, I actually just live a few towns up from her. And it's really kind of funny because I don't think that we realized that like at the time. Whenever we first met, and I knew that there was some local team in Georgia, but I didn't realize that it was really, really local. And I mean, it's kind of funny too, because it's in a like just such a it's a mountain community, which is really funny because you would think Metro Atlanta, yes, North Georgia mountains. No, it's a different story. But yeah, a little bit about me and kind of my journey to network marketing, which was never in the cards. Um, I will tell you, I'm born and raised in Blairsville, Georgia, the few towns up. And yes, we did. We actually met in Punta Cana and we sat at the same table very randomly. Yes, I sat beside Mandy. I remember that. And we were like, what? What are the odds? And yeah, so I grew up in North Georgia. And you know how like when you're a kid, you know what you want to be when you grow up. And for me, like I knew I was going to be a teacher, right? Like I was in third grade and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to be. And I would even I would even like make my own spelling books. I don't know if you guys really enjoyed spelling at the age of 9, but I guess I did. And like I was like, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do, right? And middle school, high school, whatever, like we all kind of change our career ideas at some point. I think I know one of the things I said at our Jasper event, I think Lisa Frank was a huge she played a huge role in a lot of us wanting to be marine biologists because she had like the pretty dolphin folders and everything for a, for a period of time, right? But for me, like I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. And so I went to college. I took one education class. It was intro to education. It was 8 in the morning. And I was like, this is lame. I'm not doing this. And so because of that one, literally, I switched my entire like career mindset. So I became a Spanish major. And I absolutely loved it. I worked as a translator. I've done lots of different amazing things with it. But but I graduated college and what did I want to do? I wanted to teach. And so I went back to school. I went back to school. I've gone back to school several times actually. After I finished my doctorate, I told my husband, I was like, I promise I'm not going back again. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try not to. But I'm that perpetual student. I love learning and just that's just what I enjoy. And so basically, long story short, I started as a teacher. I taught English as a second language, English to speakers of other languages, whichever acronym you you prefer. But I taught middle school, and that was definitely a grade level. I never thought I didn't like middle school when I was in it. Like, why do I want to teach it? And the Lord's funny though. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna put you here though. And he did. And gosh, I absolutely loved it. I tried elementary, tried how like no, middle school was my favorite. Um, segue to just life. And I ended up, if you are from Georgia, lots of career changes and different things later. I was a professor at Kennesaw State and I trained teachers. And I also worked as an education consultant with the US Department of State, and I worked at different embassies around the world. I've trained teachers in like 9 different countries, 5 different continents. Like it's fun. Like I've really enjoyed that skill set. Like the Lord just, I mean, and I'll be honest, none of that was because I did anything. It's because the Lord was like, I'm going to open that door. It was the Ephesians 3:20 kind of thing. And it was wonderful and I really enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, my kids were at home and I wasn't. And we are not a one income kind of family. I'll be very honest. My husband, he owns his own construction business, and he loves what he does. But right now, we are not a one income kind of family. And it got to the point where I would have like 14-hour days, because just scheduling, you'd have classes all throughout the day. And then we moved. So COVID, we moved back up to North Georgia. We had lived in Ackworth for a little while, if you're familiar with Metro Atlanta. And we moved back up here. And then I was commuting too. And if you've ever driven in Metro Atlanta traffic, like, like you feel your blood pressure rise just thinking about it. Like you don't even have to, like, you just know. And it became one of those things where I was missing bedtime. I was missing soccer. I was missing gymnastics. And I did homeschool because my schedule would start a little bit later in the day. So I was still afforded that, I guess, parenting luxury, something, that time with my kids. But I still wasn't home. And, it eventually got to the point, and I'll be very, very mindful of what I say, but very honest at the same time. I left Kennesaw State. One, I knew the Lord was calling me out of there, for several different reasons. There were a lot of things that were said behind closed doors where I'm like, I don't think you should say that kind of thing, and you're just like, okay, Lord, I've been asking for a sign. This is it. I will see myself out. Like, I'm picking up what you're dropping, Lord. Okay, I'm done here. And so, we were back to a one income household. And you can only stretch a budget so far. I was convinced, I'm like, no, Matt, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Yeah, you can only live off of Dollar General food for so long before you're like, no, I think I'm getting some sort of stomach something. And the fact of the matter is like, I knew we needed extra income, right? I knew that we needed that. And so I'd lay in bed at night and I'm like, okay, well, we don't have anything else left we can sell. Like, we got nothing. Like, we moved, like, we sold a lot of stuff already. DoorDash, I mean, if you guys are local, DoorDash does not exist in Mineral Bluff. Amazon Prime delivery, no. I mean, there were not many options. And so for my field, what I did in education, I would either have to commute again or find something virtual. There weren't a lot of options. And so I literally prayed. I was like, Lord, we need something. And I had been in network marketing before. I had absolutely no success, to the point where, like, I never even paid taxes, I think, because I didn't even get a 1099, because that's how little money I brought in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay. So I jokingly say that I was with other companies and it's kind of like I paid them to just let me be there. Because I didn't bring anything in, right? And so the thing is, though, what I can tell you is that during that time, though, I saw the vision. I saw what this industry could do for people, what it had done for other moms. And I'm like, well, that's great for them, right? That's great for them. And maybe it could have been that way for me, but it just isn't. And I was burnt out. I was ready to leave the industry. I was tired of trying and just like, it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. Like I just, no, I was just done. And so, I literally, it was one of those 2 a.m. prayers where you're scrolling and I'm like, well, DoorDash really isn't coming here. Okay. What do I do now? And, shortly thereafter, literally a day or so later, a friend posted about gold. And I was like, dang it, dang it. So I sent her a message. I'm like, hey, I have some inflammation. Can I try that? And she's like, yes, I'll send you some samples. I tried the samples, and let me tell you, I had a pain in my hip, just an ache, like a inflamed muscle, I guess, in my hip for like 7 months. And let me tell you, I went to the chiropractor. I tried everything for my hip. 3 days on gold. I send her a message. I said, what is this stuff? What is this stuff? My hip doesn't hurt anymore. I don't know what's happening. And she says, I'm gonna send you some more samples. And I'm like, so be it, go ahead. And so I tried Ignite. And first of all, if you have never tried Ignite, rule of thumb, I would recommend not taking two at a time your first time taking it, because I'm like almost with a toothbrush, like deep cleaning like the ridges in my desk. I at one point I messaged my husband, that I remember doing this that day, asking him, hey, do you think I could YouTube how to retile the bathroom? And he's like, no, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, that's fine, it's fine. I just tried this little capsule thing and I think I really like it. And he's like, what have you done? And I'm like, well, nothing, but I did. Oh, you know what? This wallpaper behind me, that's an Ignite project right there. So I'm not kidding. My team, I was known on my team for having my Ignite project. So needless to say, the products had my attention. And my friend was like, well, do you want to come and like talk to the leadership? No, no, I don't want to. But I felt like I had to because she sent me some samples and they were good. And, what do you do, right? So I got on a call, not even knowing that I was on a call with leaders. Because at other companies, you would have to pay. You had to pay big bucks to sit at the same table with leaders, much less like ever have a conversation with them. Like that was unheard of. And so I was on a call and I very boldly said that I will never do the business. I will never do it. I will never build a team here at Bravenly. Like I gave them my list of nevers, and they're very, very graceful. And they were just going through the different, sharing some business stuff, what it's like here. And I remember at one point I was like, where are the gotcha? I don't understand. Like, where are the gotchas? And they were like, we've been here for a while. We've not found any. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but I'm going to. And that was kind of my like that's kind of how I started. So I signed up just for a discount. And you know what? I very hesitantly, a few weeks later, made a post. And you know what? The Lord was like, hey, watch this. And then, we hit executive director in like 3 months. And we were like the fastest growing team, like under Glenn. And I'm like, what? And then in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna have to pay taxes on this now. I don't understand. but I share all of that to say, um, for me, it was never part of the plan to be doing network marketing full time. But it has been one of the biggest blessings that I never saw coming. Think about Ephesians 3:20 through 22, right? And I love the 22 part because it talks about the Lord can do immeasurably more than what we can imagine, right? And you get to the end of that verse and it's because of, and I'm paraphrasing, but because of his power. It's not because of our skill set. It's not because of who we are, what we bring to the table. I brought I brought nothing but doubt and sarcasm to the table when I first came to Bravenly. But the Lord wove that into something that had a larger ripple effect. And so, one of the things that I think a lot of us think about is, okay, well, network marketing, what, first of all, what are people going to think, right? Like, I know as a kid, it was never listed on the career options on career day. And it was not like no one in my class was ever like, I want to be a network marketer. I'm going to sell Tupperware when I get older. No, like I never heard that, if you, I don't know if you were a child, especially like in North Georgia in the 90s, if you remember home interiors, like my mom still has wall sconces. That's the only time I've ever heard the phrase wall sconce was with that company. And it's it's one of those things where it's just not something that people talk about. But here's the thing. I remember Aspen saying this at a retreat that we were at. Carly Foster held a retreat in May, and I had the honor of being able to attend. And Aspen was talking about network marketing and how it is an industry that kind of gets a lot of flack, right? And she said, honestly, she's like, I think that's more spiritual warfare than anything, because this industry can create financial wiggle room for people, right? And she said, what does that do? That gives people choices. And when people have choices, they can pursue their calling, start their ministry, be home with their kids, whatever it may be. And I was like, wow, I'd never thought of it that way. That was incredibly powerful. And I think that, when it comes to stepping into, that role of a network marketer, it's going to look a little different for everybody, right? Because we each have our own skill sets. For me, I realized that I 100% had put God in a box, because I'm like, hey, okay, I'll be a teacher. This is what that's going to look like for my life forever. And so whenever I left education, I grieved, I mourned. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I don't want to call it a midlife crisis. Maybe it was. But I'll be also very honest with you. Whenever we did move back to North Georgia, the Lord did a lot of different things in our lives. And I mean, I will tell you, pre-COVID, my husband and I, we were looking at moving to Europe. And I had job connections. And so why not? That's what we were going to do. And the Lord was like, hey, watch this. I feel like that's a common theme in my life where the Lord's like, buckle up. And so here's the thing though. Here is, and we think about even, and you can even apply this to companies you may have been with before, different life things. You never know in that moment why something happens the way it does, right? We were planning to move abroad. Right. We were looking into that. I was reaching out to people. We were starting those baby steps. How do we get our dogs to Europe? Because clearly we can't leave our dogs. And, here's the thing though. The country that we were looking at to move to was Ukraine, because that is where I had done consulting work. The year after COVID hit, after the world shut down and we came to a full realization that we were going nowhere, that's when the war there started. The school that was the first one bombed, I did a virtual lesson there for some seventh graders. I know a teacher there. Like it's such a small world, in the grand scheme of things. But I share all that to say, like, what powerful protection, we had no idea. And so now I joke with my husband. I'm like, yeah, now here we are, we've got goats, we've got chickens. I don't know what I'm doing half the time because I didn't grow up with any of this stuff. And, when it comes to network marketing, it has been the industry that has allowed me to stay home with my kids. I can homeschool my kids. I can chase the chickens. Today we realized they were very bad. They were like two houses down, and I was that person running up the road wearing a weight vest. I was breathing like nobody's business. I think that the neighbor thought I might have been about to fall over. But I mean, these are the things that we can do now. If we want to go somewhere, we can. We have the choices. And that's what's powerful. And, I think a lot of people, there's a quote that I wanted to. Okay, this is something that Brittany Beck said a long time ago. I don't know when she said it. I don't remember. But she said, I was a teacher and I enjoyed teaching. But what I didn't love was that someone else was raising my kids. And I will tell you guys this. My son, I saw him take his first steps. So I thought, Come to find out, he had actually taken his first steps days before, but no one had the heart to tell me because they knew I would be crushed that I missed that moment. And I mean, my son's 11 now, and that's like, that still stings. I remember having to call my boss, another grown adult, and having to ask her if I could stay home and take care of my son who was sick. And I just thought, gosh, like, this is my baby. Like, I'm having to ask someone. And those are just little things that kind of just weigh in the back of, and granted, that time I was planning on staying in education forever. But ultimately, at the end of the day, whenever Bravenly literally dropped in my lap and I decided, maybe I'll build a team here. Maybe I'll do this, right? Those were the things that were in the back of my mind. Those were some of the driving forces that were like, okay, this is the why. This is why you're doing this. And so I don't know if you guys have ever kind of thought through your why before at like that layer. I don't know if you guys have ever done, I don't even know the name of it, but it's where you ask why like 4 or 5 times or something. Um, and you basically, you start with what is your why? Oh, well, my why is my family. Okay, great. Well, let's dig into that. Ask yourself why 4 times and let's really get to the root of that. Because oftentimes you will really analyze your why to a point where you don't even have words to articulate it anymore. It's just something in your gut that you feel so deeply and you're like, that's it. That is it. And so like for me, yes, my family is my why. Well, why? Well, because time is fleeting. My kids are 8 and 11 now. I know they're still relatively young in comparison, but I missed a lot of time at the beginning because I was I was working corporate education, right? Okay, well, I want more time, right? Well, why? Why? Oh, God, I'm sorry if you can hear that. The cat is vomiting in the other side of the room, like 3 feet from me. Oh, sorry. Oh gosh, no, the dog's eating it. I'm so sorry. If I start dry heaving, just pretend it's the skincare like running into my eyes or something. I don't know. Yay! So I bet you're so happy that you asked me to do this tonight. Gosh, sorry. Oh. Anyway, so why, right? So I was thinking about like your why. You have to get to it at that different, deeper level. Like for me, like with my kids, why? Why is it so important to have that time? Well, for me, really thinking about it, my dad worked out of town during the week when I was a kid. He was a computer engineer. I mean, you guys from North Georgia, there's not a lot of computer stuff that goes on in Blairsville. And he worked at like IBM, he worked at like a lot of the train companies. So that's what he did. And he'd come home on the weekends. And I mean, my dad's one of my favorite people. And I essentially saw him very, very little as a child. And I remember how that would make me feel. I'd miss him on birthdays. He'd send me flowers. But I mean, my fourth birthday, he sent me flowers and a teddy bear, and he was so sad that he couldn't come to my party. And those are the things like that's why. But that's getting really, really into that, like because I never want my kids to feel that way. And those are things. I'll be honest, like asking yourself why that many times. Like I'd never really. I'm going to turn this into a verb. I had never really Dr. Phil'd my why that deeply before until I really just asked myself that question over and over again. But when you do that, you start to see, yeah, you're getting into the layers of it, just like an onion, right? The deeper you get in, the more tears will come. But but that is that ultimate driving force of, okay, it's going to be hard. I'm one of, you guys have probably picked up on this, but I'm probably one of the most socially awkward people you will ever meet. And I mean, it's kind of become one of those things that we just joke about now. Like me and my leaders, we just joke about it because it just is what it is. But at the same time, I will tell you one of the things, and I shared this at the Jasper event, one of the things that, just made me want to start crying there. I remember, and I don't know who this person was. I know that you guys will know who she was, but she had a little bitty newborn and she was changing a baby's diaper in the bathroom. And it was just a sweet, the baby was crying, newborns, you're crying, changing a little diaper and stuff. And I just remember thinking, gosh, like what I wouldn't give. It's your daughter. Oh, well, oh, well, okay, at least I know you, so I don't feel like super creepy telling this story. But okay, well, he is adorable. And I will tell you that I remember like in that moment, I almost started crying in the bathroom just in case she was like, "Oh, who's that weirdo washing her hands?" Like I was trying to not cry. And so I remember thinking, man, what I wouldn't give for like just one more day of my kids being little babies like that. Because at the end of the day, you never know like when that last cuddle is or when that last, hey, mommy, pick me up is going to be, you know? And so I think that's something that network marketing gives a lot of us that we don't realize. It gives us more of those moments that cannot be bought, that cannot in no way can be replicated or duplicated or anything like that. And so I know when it comes to us kind of pivoting into this space, for most of us, let's be honest, it does not look like anything we ever imagined, right? I mean, did any of you ever dream you would be a network marketer? No, okay. I see more head shaking than anything. Exactly. But what happened was the Lord opened a door and we stepped through it in faith because we know that if he opens a door, he's faithful to equip us with a skill set on the other side. I'll be honest, I think it's remembering that is sometimes the challenging part because we walk through the door and then we're like, we get all in our head and we're like, the skill set, what am I doing? Well, here's the good thing. One, I can tell you even from an educator perspective, one of the things that I did with my embassy projects was I created programs. I developed education programs, and the resources and systems that we have here are top notch, even compared to what I have seen in the world of education. And that makes me feel really good from my little put on my nerd hat. It makes me feel good. But at the same time, you know, what we have to remember is that if he brings us to it, he's going to, like I said, he's going to equip us with a skill set to carry out what his purpose is there for us. And, we may not know what that is, but whenever we think of it, think about what you wanted to be as a child. I guarantee you that in some capacity, you may be using some of those similar skills here in network marketing. I mean, we all have different personalities. We all lead differently. We all interact with people differently. And so for me, I think of, okay, the teacher brain, I still teach on stuff, right? I train, I mentor, I coach, I do all these different things. Thank goodness I've not had to break up a girl fight like I did when I taught middle school. but but the beautiful thing is that is that you know going back to Ephesians 3:20, he can do immeasurably more than what we can imagine because of who he is, not because of us. It's because of his power. And so, let's see. I had another note that I wanted to share. So here's a little snippet. Um, I don't remember who said this. I found this found this somewhere in my book of notes. But to kind of summarize, it gets messy if you're not passionate. And I think that the passion will bring clarity because if you have passion for what you're doing, the reason why you're doing it is going to be clear. At the end of the day, we want to love people, we want to serve them, we want to help them feel better. Maybe we're helping them with business goals, whatever it may be. And that's what's really, really beautiful about it is that we have the opportunity to do that. And that, like we talked about before, network marketing giving you choices, it's not just choices that are going to impact your life. You stepping into this role. I mean, think about the ripple effect that you are having on those around you. Even if they've not said anything yet, even if you don't have a customer yet, even if you don't have a team yet, whatever, people are watching. And the fact of the matter is that we have the opportunity, the potential to make legacy type differences. Differences that impact entire families. Yes, I used to teach middle school, but now I get to help the parents, I get to help the adults. And ultimately, that has an impact on the entire family. And that's a big deal. So, yes, I guess trying to think if there was anything else. I think that was kind of the long and the short of it. But yeah, I think it's just, having that passion, having that clarity, letting that be what drives you, because I think a lot of times we can get in our head about different things. And like I said, I'll leave you with this, because I just want I want to share it to be encouragement more than anything, because a lot of times I know we get nervous when we message people. And anybody else get nervous when you message people? Yeah, okay. So I will tell you, if any type of verbiage could be potentially messed up in any way, I've already done it. I have sent the message where I'm like, that's not a word. I'm so sorry. I was trying to say tortellini pasta one day. I called it tortellina pasti. And that's not the worst part. I got so tickled as I was talking to this person that I had to end the call, because why? It's not funny, but that's what happened. And then I can tell you the majority of any customer, anybody that I've ever sent a voice message to, I have to go outside because I have kids, right? They've heard my chickens, they've heard my goats. And I mean, the first time I was ever leaving a message to one of my leaders, my goat sneezed in the background. So, oh, bless you, Linda. And then I'm like, oh, sorry, that's my goat, Linda. She sneezed. I mean, what? And I just, my mouth doesn't always cut off. Um, but I can also tell you, if you were at the event in Jasper, I brought a few guests, and I wanted Brittany back to come and meet one of them. She met both of them, but I wanted her to come meet my friend Cindy, right? One side of my brain tells Brittany, hey, I want you to come meet my friend. Other side of my brain says, hey, I want you to come meet Cindy. No, my mouth says, come meet my Cindy. Brittany gets this look on her face, and I get this look on my face, and we're just like, hmm. And you know what? There's no going back from that. And Brittany knows it. And so we're just like, okay. And she she just walks over there and she goes, hey, my Cindy. And I'm like, oh, well, now I have to explain this. So I share that to say, like, if you are leaving messages, whenever you are reaching out, do it in confidence and just know that it is progress over perfection. Like, I get so nervous sometimes, but I share those things to say, you survive, and if anything, you end up with a good story at the end of the day. But yeah, all right. I think that's about it. But thank you for having me on. Hopefully that was encouraging for someone.
It was,
Or
absolutely. And I'm so glad and thankful that you jumped on and shared your story, because it was, we've talked a lot about messaging people and how, like, I'm like, I've got ghosted. We've all got ghosted and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? If anything, at least just send it and just be yourself, and and send it. And I know, so if you don't follow Holly on social media, follow her, because me and Shona have talked about, like, Holly just shows up in her robe, like on live or on her stories, like with her mask on, and I'm like, that is what people want, though. People don't want the perfect, you don't have to be picture perfect all the time to show up on social. They want who you really are, because they think that if they think that they have to show up picture perfect every day, they're not going to do it. They want something they can relate to, and know that, oh, she's in her robe. I can show up in my robe on social media. I can do that. They want relatable, authentic, genuine people that they can relate to. And as long as we go out and we be our true selves, people are going to be drawn to that. So just make sure that you're doing that. I know you all are. And so I want to thank you again. Y'all, I will post this recording, and then Holly, if you want me to send it to you, I can send it to you as well,
sure.
for your team. And then, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna hop off, and yeah, thank y'all for being on. Do y'all have any questions for Holly before we go? Anybody?
Yeah, it was very nice to meet you guys. If you're ever up in Mineral Bluff or Blue Ridge or anything, let me know. Um, and yeah, I will tell you, complete transparency. This is one of my fancy pajama shirts. I mean,
I
I mean,
love
and
it.
Yeah, I will, and I will tell you, just talking about like showing up authentically, the role that I had to fit into, literally I had to fit into it, working in higher education. I have a whole closet full of pencil skirts. I spent that whole side of my career trying to fit in and being told, well, if you do this, if you do this, if you do this, XYZ, XY. And that was never the case. And I think by the time I finally left, I got tired of trying to fit into somebody else's box. So, yep, I mean, I sh I really like my robe, and so yeah, I'll show I'll show up in it,
Yes,
kind of,
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. Just be yourself, y'all, and just show up, and I love it. I love it. So thank you again for showing up as
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Your story, like I told you earlier, your story is just super powerful. So don't ever stop sharing it.
Well, thank you. One thing, sorry, before you and just thank you for saying that. And what I want to piggyback off of with you saying that is I'll be honest, I don't think my story is anything special by any means. And I am so often hesitant to share it because I'm like, it's nothing special. But here's the thing, if I have learned anything, it is that every person's story is going to resonate with someone else. And that we like everything that we bring to the table, that is going to be a connection piece for someone else.
Yeah,
And that's where the power of this industry lies. It's the relational side. Yes, yes, you can make an income, but the relationships are the foundation that really build it.
that is, I mean, that's so true. It is you never know who you're going to relate to, resonate with, and you never know who needs your story. So that's why it's so important to just to share it. So yeah. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later, and I'll get this recording out as soon as I have it. All
Okay.
right. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye.